One thing very interesting is to observe his coordination between the arm and the legs, and how this coordination influences the result of the action, whether the action is successful or not successful. These concepts and principles apply to all three weapons. In epee, the timing is very important because you want to get that single light. So getting the opponent on the perfect timing gives you the advantage in terms of time. In sword and saber, because of the right-of-way weapon, there is again this idea of timing, and you apply it toward the rules. You want to catch the opponent when they're going to lose that right-of-way. In the end, it's the same thing. That's the semi-final between Son and Mapstead. So Son from Korea and Mapstead from England. In this bout, Mapstead did a very good job at working with his arm out before his defense. So that's a good action to observe. Mapstead is planted on his legs, his arm is out in a tip-in line position, which pushes Son to search for the blade. And Mapstead is actually going to use that timing to step in and hit him. And the next touch from the same setup with his arm out, Mapstead changed the action to parry. So rather than stepping in, he actually retreated and parry. So one coordination, one work from the hand out allowed Mapstead to work two different actions. So here's one of probably my favorite touch of 2019, which is a great simple attack from Mapstead on Son. So what's interesting on this action is actually the setup. So there has been a few touches before during which Mapstead used the tip-in line to set up a tip-in line hit to set up a parry. And what it does is that his opponent's Son now is very worried about this hand activity. Mapstead's hand is working ahead of his leg in setting up attack, but also defense. So it's hard for the opponent to judge what's going to happen. And what happens then is that Son hesitates, and Mapstead is able to attack right away with a simple lunge. So it's a good example of the hand working prior to disrupt the opponent, make it hesitate, and open the timing for an attack on preparation. So jumping later in the competition, we have now the final bout between Lefort and Mapstead. And we have, in this case, a great example of an active hand disruptive the opponent's preparation ahead of the defense. And from that disruption, he's able to change his coordination now to a back leg parry, and is able to score on the parry post. So what we can see on this action is that the France's ability to work his feet and hands separately allow him to be successful in the action. His legs were working one direction, backwards, in order to give him distance for the defense to happen. In the same time, his hand was working forward with a different pattern in order to disrupt the opponent's preparation. When the opponent's preparation evolved to the attack, then Mapstead was able to change his hand coordination. His feet are still moving backward, still working to retreat, so the legs did not change what they were doing. The hand on the other side went from forward disruption to parry close to the body. So dissociation between leg work and hand work allowed the defense to be set up and executed. So we're watching now some clips from the final and semifinals of the 2019 Bonn Men's Sword World Cup. We have Julien Mertin on the right side of the screen fencing Andrea Cassara on the left side of the screen, and on this action we have a great example of Mertin pushing his opponent forward with his hand back. So what he's doing is using the intensity of the legs to trigger a panic response from his opponent, and his hand is waiting. his hand is waiting, and only late in the process, once his opponent is off balance, he's releasing the hand and scoring on the action. So that's very far from the traditional school of extending then lunging. It's almost the opposite, where the legs are working first and the hand is working last. Here's two examples of the hand being triggered after the legs. So we have Julien Mertin on the right side of the screen, fencing Andrea Cassara on the left side of the screen. And on both actions, Mertin is going to draw reaction from his leg work. So his legs are working first and fast, and the hand is triggered at the last second. So here's an example of a very simple action perfectly executed. So we have Julien Mertin on the left side of the screen in the en garde position that's almost perfect. His front arm is slightly out, ready to be extended. His back leg is flexed. Underneath him, ready to push for a strong attack. His preparation is one or two tiny steps which keep his back leg ready to push. And on the timing, he's able to trigger a very strong push from the back leg with a very fast straight extend with the arm. And that's a straight attack, one light, no question. And we're jumping to a few touches later, where almost the same action is going to happen again. So right off the line, Mertin is ready to go. Arm is, shoulder is relaxed, so the arm is ready to be triggered very fast. Back leg is loaded, and from the ready fence is just committing to a straight action. So in all these bout examples, high-level example, we observe technical fundamental make a big difference in the bout. Effective way to use the video for a self-review and self-assessment is to have a positive approach of the observation and focus on what could I have done better on this action. If I'm successful in the action, I try to observe, try to pinpoint what was well executed, and then I look at the actions I was not successful on, and I try to compare. What's the difference? Was my timing the issue? Was my technique the issue? It cannot be just good action, bad action. It has to be more specific than that. There's many layers to the video observation. There is the observation that can be centered on the fencer. So it's mostly about the execution of the action, whether it's the timing or the technique of this execution. There is another layer of observation that's tactical. It's more about the choice of action. What is my opponent choosing to do, and what did I choose to do? Is it compatible? Is it a good way to deal with it? Is it not a good way to deal with it? And the final layer is about where is the stuff happening on the strip, what's the succession of patterns that are happening leading to an action, how did I react to something my opponent did, or how did I react to something the referee did, and how it influenced, maybe not that touch, but how it influenced about 2 touches later, 3 touches later, or even later.